apparently I forgot what time it was too, because my alarm just went off and stopped the video. So we'll pick up where we were. Mama Bellini has just lifted off the cover of the newsstand while Tucker and Chester are trying to come up with an idea to replace the $2. So that's trouble. So let's see where I was. Here we go. They had forgotten what time it was. Mama Bellini, who was on duty in the morning, stood towering, frowning down on them. Tucker let out a squeak of fear and jumped to the floor. "Catch the mouse," shouted Mama. She picked up a Fortune magazine, very big and heavy, and heaved it at Tucker. It hit him on the left hind leg just as he vanished into the drain pipe. Chester Cricket sat frozen on the spot. He was caught red-handed, holding the chewed-up $2 in his front legs. Muttering with rage, Mama Bellini picked him up by the antenna and tossed him into the cricket cage and locked the gate behind him. When she had put the newsstand in order, she pulled out her knitting and began to work furiously. But she was so angry she kept dropping stitches, and that made her angrier still. Chester crouched in a far corner of the cage. Things had been going so well between Mama and him, but that was all ruined now. He half expected that she would pick him up, cage and all, and throw him onto the shuttle tracks. At 8:30, Mario and Papa arrived. Mario wanted to go to Coney Island for a swim today, but before he could even say good morning, Mama Bellini stretched out her hand and pointed sternly at Chester. There he was with the evidence beside him. A three-cornered conversation began. Mama denounced Chester as a money eater and said further that she suspected him of inviting mice and other unsavory creatures into the newsstand at night. Papa said he didn't think Chester had eaten the $2 on purpose, and what difference did it make if a mouse or two came in? Mama said he had to go. Papa said he could stay, but he'd have to be kept in the cage. And Mario knew that Chester, like all people who were used to freedom, would rather die than live his life behind bars. Finally, it was decided that since the cricket was Mario's pet, the boy would have to replace the money. And when he had, Chester could come out again. Until then, the cage. By working part-time delivering groceries when he wasn't taking care of the newsstand, Mario thought he could earn enough in a couple of weeks to get Chester out of jail. Of course, that would mean no swimming at Coney Island, and no movies, and no nothing, but it was worth it. He fed the cricket his breakfast, leftover asparagus tips, and a piece of cabbage leaf. Chester had practically no appetite after what had happened. Then, when the cricket was finished, Mario said goodbye and told him not to worry and went off to the grocery store to see about his job. That night, after Papa had shut up the newsstand, Chester was hanging through the gilded bars of the cage. Earlier in the evening, Mario had come back to feed him his supper, but then he had to leave right away to get in a few more hours of work. Most of the day, Chester had spent inventing hopping games to try to keep himself entertained, but they didn't work really. He was bored and lonely. The funny thing was that although he had been sleepy and kept wishing it were night, now that it was, he couldn't fall asleep. Chester heard the soft padding of feet beneath him. Harry Cat sprang up and landed on the shelf. In a moment, Tucker Mouse followed him from the stool, groaning with pain. He was still limping in his left hind leg where the Fortune magazine had hit him. "How long is the sentence?" asked Harry. "Until Mario can pay back the money," sighed Chester. "Couldn't you get out on bail for the time being?" asked Tucker. "No," said Chester. "And anyway, nobody has any bail. I'm surprised they let me off that easily." Harry Cat folded his front paws over each other and rested his head on them. Let me get this straight, he said. Does Mario have to work for the money as punishment, or does he just have to get it somewhere? He just has to get it, said Chester. Why should he be punished? I'm the one who ate the money. Harry looked at Tucker, a long look, as if he expected the mouse to say something. Tucker began to fidget. Say, Chester, you want to escape? He asked. We can open the cage. You could come and live in the drain pipe. No, Chester shook his head. It wouldn't be fair to Mario. I'll just have to serve out the time. Harry looked at Tucker again and began tapping one of his paws. Well, he said finally. Tucker moaned and massaged his sore spot. Oh, my poor leg. That Mama Bellini can sure heave a magazine. Feel the bump, Harry, he offered. I felt it already, said Harry. Now, enough of the stalling. You have money. Tucker has money, said Chester Cricket. Tucker looked nervously from one to the other. I have my life savings, he said in a pathetic voice. He's the richest mouse in New York, said Harry. Old Moneybags Mouse, he's known as. Now, wait a minute, Harry, said Tucker. Let's not make too much from a few nickels and dimes. How did you get money? Asked Chester. Tucker Mouse cleared his throat and began wringing his two front feet. When he spoke, his voice was all choked up with emotion. Years ago, he said, when yet a little mouse, I was tender in age and lacking in experience, I moved from the sweet scenes of my childhood, 10th Avenue, that is, into the Times Square subway station. And it was here that I learned the value of economics, which means saving. Many an old mouse did I see crawling away unwanted to a poor mouse's grave because he had not saved, and I resolved that such a fate